Hello, welcome to Phantom Homicide. Today we are taking a deep dive into the Setagaya family murder.
And if you, our listener, are looking for the ultimate true crime paradox, well, you've found it. We're talking about a case where the killer leaves behind an absolute mountain of forensic evidence.
Just tons of it.
Exactly. Fingerprints, DNA, clothing, yet somehow remains completely invisible to the authorities. This is Japan's most perplexing unsolved crime, the Setagaya Eika Satsugai Jiken, the Setagaya family killings.
And it's just horrific. We're talking about an entire family, the Miyazawas, wiped out in their own home right at the turn of the millennium. There was Mikio Miyazawa, he was 44, his wife Yasuko, 41, then their daughter Nina, just 8 years old,
And a little boy.
and their son Ray, only 6, a whole family.
Yeah. And the initial shock, the sheer horror of a mass murder like that, it quickly turned into something, I don't know, deeper, more chilling.
Because he stayed.
Because he stayed. The unknown attacker didn't just commit the crime and flee. No,
Yeah.
he settled in, stayed inside the house for this incredible, almost unbelievable amount of time.
How long are we talking?
Well, investigators estimate anywhere between 2 and, get this, 10 hours.
10 hours after everything.
Yes. Using the family's things, eating their food, tending to his own wounds, apparently,
What?
and leaving behind this just staggering array of biological and physical clues.
It's unlike anything else, really. It stands out so much.
It really does.
So our mission today is to really unpack this investigation.
Yes.
Because the resources involved, it's staggering. The Tokyo Metropolitan Police, over 246,000 investigators have worked on this over 2 decades.
An unprecedented number.
Right. And they have the killer's DNA profile, they have his fingerprints, they have clothes he wore, his shoes, even like sand particles traced back to different continents.
All the pieces seem to be there.
Exactly. And yet, the perpetrator is still faceless. The complete ghost.
So we need to dig into why this case, which seems overflowing with scientific evidence, is still so utterly cold. It kind of challenges everything we think about forensics leading to justice, doesn't it?
It really does. It forces you to ask, what good is the evidence if you can't connect it?
Okay, so let's set the scene first. Where did this happen?
Right, the location. This took place in Kamisoshigaya, which is known as a pretty quiet sort of upscale neighborhood in the Setagaya ward of Tokyo.
Okay.
The Miyazawa home itself was a 2-story house. And its specific spot, that turns out to be a really key detail.
Yeah, I read about this. It wasn't like a busy street packed with houses, right?
Not at all. The house was literally right next to Soshigaya Park. And the context here is important. The park was being expanded. So the area was actually being cleared out. The sources say the Miyazawas were one of the very last families, maybe only 3 families total, who hadn't sold their land yet for the park expansion.
So kind of isolated then. Very isolated, especially at night. Fewer neighbors around, fewer potential witnesses for anything happening late on December 30th.
And the crime wasn't discovered immediately either.
No, it took hours. It wasn't until the morning of New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2000, around 10:40 a.m.
Wow.
Yasuko's mother, Haruko, actually lived right next door. She tried calling, got no answer, went to the door, no answer again. Naturally, she got worried, suspicious.
Understandable.
When she went over, and that's when she found the scene. Just horrific.
Unimaginable for her.
Yeah.
So how did the police figure out how the killer got in?
Their reconstruction is pretty detailed. They believe the killer got in through a second-floor bathroom window at the back of the house.
Second floor. How?
Well, the way they pieced it together suggests either the killer knew the house's layout, maybe from watching it, or they'd been there before.
Okay.
What they think happened is he climbed the low fence around the property first. Then there was an external air conditioning unit box.
Like a step up.
Exactly. Use that as a sort of makeshift step to reach that second floor window. And the fly screen for that window, it had been cut. Neatly cut, actually.
Cut, not just broken.
Cut. They found the screen itself on the ground outside, near where they also found the killer's footprints pressed into the mud.
Okay, so that's pretty specific. Not a forced entry like smashing glass. More deliberate.
Very deliberate. It suggests a planned, quiet method of entry, not just a random break-in.
All right, let's talk about the attack sequence itself. The police believe it happened quite quickly, right? Like a specific window of time.
Yeah, terrifyingly fast. Probably within about a half-hour period, late on December 30th, maybe bleeding just into the very first minutes of December 31st.
And the sequence starts with the youngest.
Chillingly, yes. 6-year-old Ray. He was attacked first. The investigators believe he was likely asleep in his second-floor bedroom.
And how? How was he attacked?
This is crucial. He wasn't stabbed initially, he was strangled. With bare hands, the cause of death was asphyxiation.
Strangled.
Mm.
Why the different method, do they think?
The thinking is, the killer was prioritizing silence at first. Take out the first victim quietly, without making noise that might alert the others who were downstairs.
But obviously the silence didn't hold.
No. The father, Mikio, was downstairs. Reports suggest he must have heard something. Maybe a small noise, movement, a door creaking. Something that made him realize someone was upstairs.
And he went up.
He rushed upstairs, and that's when it became violent. A desperate confrontation.
A struggle.
A brutal struggle. Mikio had over 40 defensive wounds. He fought back hard, trying to protect his family.
40 wounds. Wow.
And that struggle is so important forensically because two critical things happened during that fight. The killer got injured.
Which left his blood later, right?
Exactly. And the weapon failed.
Okay, tell us about the weapons. The killer brought one, didn't he? A specific type.
Yes, he initially used something called a sashimi butchu. It's a long, thin knife, typically used for filleting fish. Not really the kind of weapon you'd expect for this sort of violent attack.
A fishing knife. Strange choice.
It is. And during that struggle with Mikio, the blade of the sashimi butchu actually snapped off, broke, and the broken piece got lodged inside Mikio's head.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
So the killer's weapon breaks during the attack.
Yes. Imagine the chaos of that moment. The weapon you brought is now broken, useless, and stuck in your victim. He's injured, Mikio's fighting back.
So what did he do then?
He had to adapt. He was disarmed, injured, but determined to continue.
So he found another weapon.
Precisely. He then grabbed a knife from the Miyazawa's own kitchen, just a standard Santoku kitchen knife, and he used that knife to continue the attacks on the remaining family members.
The mother and daughter.
Yasuko and Nina. They were attacked with both the broken piece of the sashimi butchu and the family Santoku knife.
And there was something about Yasuko's position.
Yes, the investigators analyzed her body's position. It suggested she might have been trying to shield Nina, her 8-year-old daughter, during the final moments. Just heartbreaking. And another deeply disturbing point, which ties into later theories about motive, Yasuko was the last one killed. And the attack on her was excessively brutal, even included post-mortem injuries.
More so than the others.
Significantly more so, which suggests perhaps a greater level of rage or maybe a specific focused intent directed right at her.
Okay, this is where the case just goes completely off the rails, psychologically speaking. He kills 4 people, and then he just hangs out.
It shifts everything, doesn't it? From a, violent home invasion to something profoundly unsettling. He didn't flee immediately. He stayed. For that huge window of time, 2 to 10 hours after the murder.
You have to really let that sink in.
Yeah.
A killer surrounded by the victims, engaging in these mundane activities.
The level of psychological detachment is just extreme. It's so hard to reconcile the brutality of the murders with how casually he seemed to treat the scene afterwards.
Yeah, it doesn't fit the profile of a panicked burglar, certainly, or even a professional hitman to be gone instantly.
Not at all.
So what exactly was he doing in those hours? Let's go through that bizarre list.
Right. It's like he treated the Miyazawa home as his own personal rest stop. He ate food from their fridge, specifically 4 different types of ice cream from the freezer.
4 types. And how he ate it. That detail always sticks with me.
Yeah, the reports often mention this. He didn't use a spoon. He apparently squeezed the cardboard containers.
He squeezed them.
Yeah, squeezed them and bit off chunks as the ice cream came out the top.
Okay, that's weirdly specific. What else?
He also drank 4 bottles of barley tea and ate some melon that was in the fridge.
So picture this, the horrific scene, the aftermath,
Yeah.
and he's just there having snacks.
It suggests either like a profound state of shock, maybe dissociation, or just cold, calculated psychopathy, a complete lack of empathy or normal human reaction.
And he wasn't just snacking, he was also dealing with his own injuries, right?
Yeah.
From the fight with Mikio.
Yes, we know he got cut, probably on his hands, and he used the family's own first aid kits and other sanitary products to treat those cuts.
And crucially, he left evidence of that.
He did. He left behind blood-stained tissues. Now, unlike the clothing he left, which might have other DNA on it, this blood was his. Pure, unadulterated. It gave investigators a perfect source for his DNA profile.
Which became central to the whole case.
Absolutely. And maybe the most careless piece of evidence, or maybe it was arrogance, was using the family toilet.
Ah, yes, the unflushed toilet.
Exactly. He used the toilet, but for whatever reason, carelessness, maybe deliberate disregard, he didn't flush.
Leaving behind. Well,
Leaving behind feces, which was obviously collected and analyzed immediately. Another pristine source of his DNA.
but also more than that, right? Didn't it give them dietary clues?
Incredible insight, actually. The analysis showed he'd eaten string beans and sesame seeds probably the day before the murders.
String beans and sesame seeds. That's incredibly specific.
It really is. It tells you something concrete about his life, his routine, right before the crime. Invaluable information.
He also left a digital footprint. He used their computer.
Yes, another layer of just bizarre behavior. Mikio's computer was accessed. It connected to the internet for a short period, between 1:18 a.m. and 1:23 a.m.
Just hours after the murders. What was he looking at?
Sources say he visited websites related to theater companies and also travel sites.
Theater and travel. What does that even mean? Was he looking for an escape route? Trying to book something? Or just randomly surfing?
It's completely open to interpretation. Was it a practical thing, a diversion, or just the ultimate sign of that detachment we talked about, casually browsing the web amidst the carnage? We just don't know.
Now, this digital footprint thing, it's important because some of the early stories got mixed up, didn't they?
Yeah.
About the computer and phone lines.
That's a really crucial point, yeah. We need to address the corrections that came out later, particularly from detailed investigations like the Faceless podcast.
What were the main corrections?
Well, first, those early media reports often claimed the killer cut the phone lines. But later, more thorough investigation reported that the phone lines were not cut, they were intact.
Okay, that's a significant difference. And what about the computer being used again later in the morning?
Right. There was this persistent story about a second internet connection around 10 a.m. on the 31st. That fueled speculation the killer might have still been in the house when Yasuko's mother, Haruko, arrived.
But that's been debunked.
Largely, yes. Nicholas Obregon, the host of Faceless, presented compelling information suggesting that 10 a.m. connection wasn't the killer at all.
So who was it?
It was most likely Haruko herself. When she discovered the scene, understandably in a state of shock and distress, she probably accidentally bumped the computer mouse.
Just waking the computer up.
Exactly, waking it up, causing it to briefly ping the network. So it wasn't the killer lingering for hours and hours. These corrections really tighten the likely timeline, suggesting that the killer was probably gone well before dawn.
Okay. And what about the story that he took a nap on the sofa? Is that confirmed?
That's another detail, often repeated in early reports, that he napped on the second-floor living room sofa. But Obregon noted there's no solid physical evidence to actually back that claim up. Could be speculation that just stuck.
Got it. So, based on his actions inside the house, what about the motive? The scene looked ransacked, right? Drawers pulled out, papers everywhere.
Yes, there were definite signs of ransacking. Drawers were open, papers scattered around. Some documents were even found dumped in the bathtub and, bizarrely, in the unflushed toilet.
But the money aspect was weird.
This is the core confusion about motive. Some money was taken from the house, but substantial amounts of cash were also left behind, untouched.
So it wasn't a straightforward robbery.
Doesn't look like it.
Okay.
If your only goal is money, why spend hours eating ice cream? Why leave valuable evidence everywhere? And why leave significant cash behind?
You complicate things hugely.
Immediately. Investigators knew they weren't dealing with just a simple burglary gone wrong. The behavior suggests either maybe a calculated attempt to make it look like a robbery in our diversion.
To cover up a targeted attack, maybe?
That's one theory. Or the alternative is that the killer's state of mind was just so severely disorganized, maybe due to panic or psychosis, that he couldn't maintain focus. He started ransacking, got distracted, ate ice cream, used the computer, lost track of the original goal, whatever it was.
The fact he stayed so long, it means he basically left his entire outfit behind, didn't he? Like a forensic shopping list for the police.
It's astounding, really. He essentially shed his identity inside the Miyazawa home. In the living area, investigators found the sheath for that sashimi knife, a scarf, a very distinct hip bag, the shirt he was wearing, his jacket, a hat, gloves, and even 2 handkerchiefs.
Wow, that's almost everything but his pants.
Pretty much. And this massive haul of physical evidence allowed the police to do some incredible detective work, painstakingly tracing where these items came from, manufacturing, sales locations, even the geological origins of tiny particles found on them. It's like he left behind anti-clues.
Okay, let's break down that clothing trail, because this is where the investigation just explodes internationally,
Okay.
right?
Absolutely. Let's start with the shirt he left behind. This wasn't just any shirt. It was incredibly rare.
How rare.
Only 130 units of this specific shirt were ever made and sold. Total, worldwide.
Only 130. That's tiny production.
It's minuscule. And imagine the police work involved. They've managed to track down only 12 of the people who bought one of those shirts.
12 out of 130, so 118 are still unaccounted for.
Exactly. And tracing those remaining 118 potential owners has consumed years of investigation. Now, the shirt itself, along with that initial sashimi knife, they traced the purchase location to Kanagawa Prefecture, which is adjacent to Tokyo.
Okay, so that suggests he was active locally or maybe moved from Kanagawa recently.
That's the thinking, yes, a local connection. But then look at the jacket.
What about the jacket?
It was a Slazenger brand jacket, size medium, and the style was described as hip-hop fashion.
Slazenger. Isn't that a British sports brand?
It is, yeah. But the trail for purchasing the specific jacket quickly led investigators overseas. Possible purchase locations, California in the U.S. or South Korea.
California or South Korea. Okay, now we're crossing oceans.
And the shoes just reinforced this international kind of transient profile.
What were the shoes?
They were sized 27.5 centimeters, which is roughly a U.S. men's 9.5. They were confirmed to be Korean-made. The brand was Supersonics.
Korean-made shoes.
But, crucially, marketed by the British company Slazenger, the same brand as the jacket.
Okay, wait. So we have a knife and shirt bought locally in Japan, Kanagawa. Then a Slazenger jacket, possibly from California or Korea. And Slazenger marketed Korean-made shoes.
See how the picture gets complicated? We've got these specific global touch points. Japan, Korea, the UK through the brand connection, and California in the US.
Like a travel itinerary left at the scene.
It really is. And even the smallest items held clues. He left 2 handkerchiefs, remember?
Right.
One of them was traced back to being manufactured in Pakistan. Pretty standard. But the other handkerchief, the one he apparently used to wrap the knife handle, maybe for grip after it broke.
What about that one?
That one had potentially even more specific origins. It was thought to be similar in style or material to handkerchiefs commonly used by certain communities in Ilocos and Isabela provinces in the Philippines.
The Philippines now, too. Wow.
Yeah. And this lead was considered specific enough that the Tokyo Metropolitan Police actually considered sending investigators to the Philippines to follow up. It just shows how wide they were casting the net, following every thread, no matter how small or distant.
But out of all this physical evidence, if you had to pick the one thing that just defines the mystery, the truly unique clue, it has to be the sands, right?
Oh, absolutely. The sand found inside the killer's discarded hip bag. This is where the case enters almost science fiction territory. The geologic fingerprint.
What do they find in the sand?
Tiny trace amounts. But the analysis they did was incredibly sophisticated. They found rare minerals in that sand, including something called fluorite.
Okay. And what did the presence of those minerals tell them? Where did the sand come from?
This is the mind-blowing part. The analysis concluded the sand didn't come from just one place. It was a mixture, originating from 2 completely separate, very specific locations on Earth.
2 locations from that one sample.
Yes. The first origin point? The Nevada desert, specifically the area around Edwards Air Force Base in California.
Edwards Air Force Base. Okay, huge military installation. That's significant.
Yeah.
And the second location?
The second origin point was identified as a specific skate park located somewhere within Japan.
Nevada desert near a U.S. Air Force Base and a Japanese skate park. In the same hip bag.
Astonishing, isn't it? That tiny sample of sand basically acts as a geological passport. It tells us this person had physically been at, or very near, a major U.S. military-associated site in the California desert. And they also frequented a skate park in Japan.
This just screams military connection, doesn't it?
It instantly became one of the most dominant and credible theories, that the killer had some kind of direct link to the U.S. military presence. Maybe a dependent, like a teenager living on base, a service member themselves. Or maybe just someone civilian who had regular recent access to U.S. bases, perhaps Yokota Air Base near Tokyo, or bases back in the States.
And it connects the dots perfectly. The California link from the jacket, the Korean shoes, which are common around U.S. bases in Asia, the sand ties it all together. Suggests someone highly mobile moving between these specific points.
Precisely. It paints a picture of a very specific kind of transient lifestyle.
Okay, so we've got this overwhelming pile of physical evidence, of clothes, the sand. But the real scientific gift the killer left behind, the thing that should have solved this case, that's the biological evidence, the DNA.
And that's the ultimate paradox, the source of decades of frustration for investigators. The killer left behind abundant DNA, loads of it.
Where did they get it from?
From the blood he left behind, from those cuts he got fighting Mikio, from saliva possibly on the drink bottles or ice cream, and of course, from the feces left in the unflushed toilet.
So they have his complete DNA profile, high quality.
Absolutely. Pristine, established, undeniable, they know his genetic code, and yet he remains a phantom.
Why? How can that be?
The irony is just crushing. They have this perfect genetic blueprint, but the problem is legal and systemic. His DNA profile and his fingerprints, which they also recovered, they don't match anyone in the existing Japanese criminal databases.
Meaning he had no prior criminal record in Japan.
Exactly. Zero record. Which forced investigators to accept they were likely dealing with someone outside their national system entirely. Maybe someone who'd never been arrested, or someone not even Japanese.
Okay, so based on the evidence they did have, like the clothes, the footprints, what kind of physical description did the police put together?
Well, from the clothing sizes and shoe prints, they estimate he was around 170 centimeters tall, that's about 5'7", and had a relatively thin build. They also analyzed the angles and nature of the victim's wounds, which led them to believe he was most likely right-handed.
And his age. That changed over time, didn't it?
It did, significantly. Initially, the police cast a really wide net. They guessed the killer could be anywhere from 15 to 40 years old.
That's a huge range.
Very broad.
Yeah.
But then in 2018, after years of analysis and maybe considering the other clues, like the clothing style, they made a major revision.
What was the revision?
They revised the estimated age sharply downward. The Tokyo Metropolitan Police now believe the killer was likely much younger, probably between 15 and 22 years old at the time of the murders, back in 2000.
15 to 22, that's a teenager or very young adult.
Exactly. And that shift really reinforces some of the theories about perhaps an inexperienced youth, maybe a burglary that spiraled out of control, someone impulsive.
And it fits better with the hip-hop style jacket, the skate park sand. That all points younger.
It aligns much more closely with that younger profile, yes.
Okay, now let's get to the absolute core of the international puzzle. The DNA itself. It didn't just give them a profile. It suggested a really specific mixed heritage.
Yes. This is perhaps the most complex and globally significant clue. First, the basics. They determined his blood type was type A, which was easily ruled out as belonging to any of the Miyazawa family members.
Right, but the ancestry part.
The detailed DNA analysis revealed a dual heritage profile. It's fascinating. You have to look at the paternal line and the maternal line separately.
Okay, let's start with the paternal line, the father's side, traced through the Y chromosome.
Right. His Y chromosome haplogroup was identified as OM122. Now, this haplogroup is actually quite common across various East Asian populations.
How common?
It's found in roughly, say, 1 in every 4 or 5 Korean men, about 1 in 10 Chinese men, and about 1 in 13 Japanese men.
So definitely East Asian paternal ancestry, but could be Korean, Chinese, or Japanese. Still quite broad.
Broad, but it confirms an East Asian paternal lineage. But then you look at the maternal line. This is traced through mitochondrial DNA, which is only passed down from the mother. And this is where the profile becomes incredibly unique and points overseas.
What did the maternal DNA show?
It indicated European descent.
European?
Yes. Specifically, the analysis suggested origins from a southern European country, possibly near the Mediterranean Sea or the Adriatic Sea.
Southern Europe, like Italy, Greece, Croatia?
Potentially, yes. And even more recent reports, I think from around July 2025, suggested possible deeper ancestral links tracing back to the Caucasus region.
Wow, okay, so East Asian father's line, Southern European mother's line, that's a very specific mix.
It's incredibly specific and statistically quite rare, especially in Japan at that time.
Now, just to be clear, does this mean his father was definitely East Asian and his mother was definitely European, like his direct parents?
Not necessarily his immediate parents, no. It's about lineage. The DNA markers indicate that ancestry exists in his family tree. It's considered possible, for instance, that the European maternal DNA comes from a more distant ancestor, maybe many generations back, rather than him having a fully European mother.
Okay, but the presence of both distinct markers is the key thing.
Absolutely. The presence of both these distinct genetic markers, East Asian paternal, European maternal, combined with all the other evidence, like the international clothing, the U.S. desert sand, it confirms they're dealing with someone of a highly complex international background, someone very difficult to place easily.
So this combination of clues, The mixed DNA, the Korean shoes, the California jacket link, the Nevada sand. It basically forced the Tokyo police to look beyond Japan's borders, didn't it?
They had no choice. This wasn't just a domestic Japanese crime anymore. These unique DNA results, combined with everything else, meant they had to seek international help.
Through Interpol.
Yes. The Tokyo Metropolitan Police Department formally requested assistance through Interpol, the International Criminal Police Organization. It was an official acknowledgement that their suspect might not even be Japanese. Or, perhaps equally likely, he might have been a temporary resident, a student, a worker, a military dependent who simply left Japan shortly after the crime.
Slipping out of the country before the investigation really understood just how international the clues were.
Exactly, escaping their jurisdiction and the reach of their investigation.
Which brings us right back to that core question. Why? Why is this case still unsolved after more than 20 years with this absolute avalanche of forensic evidence?
It's the million-dollar question, isn't it? And the frustrating answer seems to be, it's not really a failure of the science itself. They have the scientific evidence. The failure lies more in the legal and systemic limitations in using that science effectively.
What's the main barrier?
The biggest one, as we touched on, is Japanese law regarding their DNA database. It's strictly limited. It only contains DNA profiles from people who have actually been convicted of crimes.
So if our killer had no prior convictions in Japan,
his pristine DNA profile, sitting in the police files, will never find a match within that national database. It's like having a key, but the lock it fits isn't in the room you're allowed to search.
Okay, but what about forensic genealogy? That's how they solved huge cold cases in the U.S., like the Golden State Killer, right?
Yeah.
Uploading the DNA to public genealogy sites to find distant relatives.
Ah, yes. GED match and similar platforms. Yeah. That's been revolutionary elsewhere. But here's the critical roadblock for the Setagaya case. That technique, forensic genealogy, is reportedly illegal for crime-solving purposes in Japan.
It's illegal. They can't use it.
That's the understanding. They are legally prohibited from uploading the killer's DNA profile to these public or commercial genealogy databases to try and build a family tree and find relatives.
Wow. That seems like the single biggest handicap. They have this incredibly unique mixed heritage DNA, perfect for tracing lineage, but they're not allowed to use the main tool for doing that.
It's incredibly frustrating for the investigators, you have to imagine. They have the roadmap provided by the DNA, but they're legally barred from actually following that road.
And that legal complexity is just amplified by the global nature of all the other clues.
Absolutely. You've got the Korean clothing, the specific U.S. desert sand connection, the mixed DNA pointing potentially to Europe and East Asia. It stretches jurisdiction across multiple continents, and sharing sensitive DNA data and criminal intelligence between different countries with different laws and privacy regulations, it's tremendously difficult, especially if the suspect was transient.
Right. If the killer was, let's say, that hypothetical military kid, or a foreign student, or a temporary worker.
They could have simply left Japan maybe just days or weeks after New Year's 2001. They could have flown out, perhaps through military channels if connected, slipping out of the country before the police even finished analyzing the sand or got the full DNA breakdown.
Escaping the net before it had even fully formed.
It's a highly probable scenario. It's the nightmare for investigators. A killer with no local criminal record commits a horrific crime, leaves abundant forensic evidence, but then flees the jurisdiction, relying on the legal and logistical barriers between countries to keep them safe indefinitely.
Okay, let's talk about the main theories investigators and analysts have kicked around over the years, trying to make sense of the killer's motive, his bizarre actions in the house. What are the leading ideas?
Well, one strong contender has always been revenge or a targeted attack.
Why that theory?
The evidence supporting it is pretty compelling, especially the sheer brutality inflicted on Yasuko, the mother. Remember, she was attacked last, and the violence against her was excessive, even post-mortem. That suggests intense personal rage, not random violence.
So the idea is the killer knew Yasuko specifically.
That's the core of the theory. Maybe the ransacking, the computer use, that was all just an elaborate smokescreen, a diversion to make it look like a robbery gone wrong and hide the real personal motive directed at her.
But then why stay for hours eating ice cream if it was planned revenge? It still seems weird.
It does. But analysts who lean towards this theory suggest that for certain psychopathic profiles, especially in revenge killings, the extended stay isn't about panic. It could be a perverse form of savoring the moment, a need to remain present with the fulfilled act, almost observing the aftermath of their rage. The focus on Yasuko really points away from just a random break-in.
Okay. What's another major theory?
Then you have the random youth burglary gone wrong theory. This gained a lot more traction after the police revised the age estimate down to 15, 22 years old.
And it fits to the clothes, too, the hip-hop style.
Right. The idea here is maybe it started as an opportunistic break-in by an inexperienced kid. He gets inside, maybe looking for cash, but then Mikio confronts him, fights back hard, and the situation explodes violently. The kid panics, lashes out brutally.
But again, the staying for hours. Does panic explain that?
That's the tricky part for this theory. Does panic lead you to eat ice cream and surf the web? Maybe not. But proponents suggest it could indicate profound psychological disorganization. Not calculated savoring, but maybe a kind of paralysis. A young mind completely overwhelmed, unable to process what happened, resorting to mundane actions almost robotically because fleeing seems impossible. A professional burglar flees instantly. An inexperienced, panicked kid might just freeze and act irrationally.
Okay. Then there's the big one, the theory that seems to tie all the weird threads together.
Yeah.
The military connection.
This one is very compelling precisely because it does seem to explain so many of the anomalies.
How so?
It posits the killer was likely a young person, maybe a teenager, who was a dependent of U.S. military personnel. That potentially gives them access to both Japanese skate parks, local life, and U.S. military facilities or areas, explaining the Nevada desert sand. It also accounts for the possible purchase locations of the clothing, California, Korea, common transit points, or locations for military families.
And it explains the lack of a Japanese criminal record.
Perfectly. If the perpetrator was a foreign dependent, they wouldn't be in the Japanese system. And crucially, it provides a plausible mechanism for leaving the country quickly and relatively unnoticed after the crime, potentially through established military relocation channels. High mobility, no local record, access to specific international locations. It fits.
Now, someone always brings up the thrift store red herring idea. Could the clothes have just been bought secondhand somewhere, making all the location clues meaningless?
It's a possibility that has to be considered, sure. Maybe the jacket from California was bought at a thrift store in Tokyo.
But what about the sand?
That's the big counter-argument. The sand is so specific. Finding that unique mixed Nevada desert near Edwards AFB plus a Japanese skate park in the same bag. To dismiss that as just random contamination from secondhand clothes seems like a huge stretch. It strongly implies the person wearing that bag physically traveled between or spent significant time in those two very specific, very different environments. It's hard to write off as coincidence.
Yeah, the sand seems key. Okay, so regardless of the exact motive or killer profile, the impact of this case in Japan has been massive, hasn't it? It became more than just an unsolved murder.
Oh, hugely. The Setagaya family murder became a cause célèbre, a symbol of frustration and the potential failings of the justice system. It highlighted this terrible injustice, having a killer whose identity was scientifically knowable through DNA, but who might escape justice simply because time ran out on the clock.
Because there used to be a statute of limitations.
Exactly. And the intense media focus, the public outcry, the persistence of the victims' families, it was all instrumental in achieving major legal reform in Japan. In 2010, fueled in large part by the Setagaya case, the statute of limitations for crimes serious enough to merit the death penalty was completely abolished.
So this case directly changed Japanese law.
Directly. The frustration of having the DNA but racing against that legal deadline was a powerful catalyst for change.
And the investigation itself, it's not cold in the sense of being forgotten, is it? It's still active.
Very active. It remains one of the largest, most resource-intensive investigations in Japanese history. Even today, over 2 decades later, there are reportedly around 35 police officers assigned to the case full-time.
35 officers. Still.
And every single piece of evidence they collected, all 12,545 items, is meticulously preserved, ready. Waiting for that moment when maybe technology advances further or the law changes again, allowing for that crucial connection to finally be made.
And there's still a large reward out.
Yes, $20 million, which is a substantial amount. It shows the continued political and social importance placed on finally solving this case and bringing closure.
There's also been this ongoing, quite emotional fight about the house itself, right? The physical location.
Yes, that's been a sad side story. Mikio's mother, Setsuko Miyazawa, who's been a tireless advocate for justice, along with other supporters, has fought against demolishing the house.
Why do they want to keep it?
Even though it's old now, facing risks of collapse, they argue the site itself needs to be preserved. As a physical reminder of the unsolved crime, as a place where clues might still somehow reside, and to resist the urge to just erase this terrible event from the landscape and from memory.
And the case still pops up in the news, even recently.
It does. There was that unfortunate incident in November 2023. Some high school students broke into the vacant property, apparently for a misguided test of courage. They were caught and prosecuted.
No idea.
But on a more potentially positive note for the investigation's future, just in May 2024, the local Setagaya Ward Assembly passed a motion. It was aimed at promoting the wider use and expansion of DNA information databases within Tokyo.
So maybe pressure is building to change those restrictive laws we talked about.
It certainly reflects the ongoing pressure the specific case continues to exert on Japan's judicial and forensic systems. The desire to solve Setagaya is pushing for broader changes. Hashtag outro.
So it all comes back to that central maddening paradox, doesn't it? The Setagaya family murder isn't a mystery because of a lack of evidence. It's overflowing with it.
Exactly. It's a terrifying failure of connection. The killer exists. He exists as a pristine DNA profile, as fingerprints, as a wardrobe full of international clues, even as a geological passport in that handful of sand. He's there, in the data.
Just waiting for a match. A match that seems to fundamentally require either a massive leap in technology or maybe more likely a significant legal or systemic shift within Japan, particularly regarding DNA databases and genealogy.
It really serves as this powerful, sobering reminder, not just for Japan but globally, about the limits of forensic science. The science can give you the what and the who in terms of a profile, but without the right databases, legal frameworks, and international cooperation to connect that profile to a name, the evidence can remain inert, locked away.
We talked a lot about those hours the killer spent inside the house, the ice cream, the internet, treating his wounds, the toilet, all while surrounded by the victims he'd just murdered.
Right.
So maybe the final thought for you, our listener, is to reflect on the sheer psychological terror bound up in that extended stay. What was going on in his head during those hours? Was he paralyzed by fear? Trapped by the shock of his own actions, literally detained by the horror, not knowing how to escape?
Or was it something darker? Was he indulging some deep psychopathic need? Was he actually enjoying the aftermath, savoring the result of his violence, treating that horrific crime scene as his own personal, quiet theater? That choice, fear, or fulfillment, it's a terrifying question, and it remains the central, chilling enigma of the Setagaya family murder.
Okay, so we hope you liked our today's discussion. For more such discussions, subscribe to our channel, Phantom Homicide.